Picture this. A Western sleep consultant walks into a Japanese home for the first time. She has spent 15 years helping families get their children to sleep alone, in their own rooms, through the night, without waking. She has written a book about it. She is very good at her job. And then she sees it. A Japanese mother, father, and 2 children, all sleeping together on futons pushed side by side on the floor. No cribs. No sleep training. No white noise machine. No separate bedrooms. Just a family. Horizontal. Together. Her first instinct is concern. Her second is confusion. Because these children are not anxious. They are not clingy. They are not struggling in school. They are, by every developmental measure she knows, doing extraordinarily well. She came to teach. She left with a question she couldn't answer. Why? Stay with me. Because the answer reaches deeper than sleep. It goes all the way into the architecture of the developing brain. And at least 2 things you're about to hear, you can apply tonight. Let's start with the practice itself. In Japan, the most common sleeping arrangement for families with young children is called Kawari no Ko river children. The name comes from the shape. Mother on one side, father on the other, child in the middle. Like a river flowing between 2 banks. This is not a poverty arrangement. This is not a space constraint. Japan has some of the most sophisticated urban housing in the world. Families who could afford separate bedrooms choose not to use them. Because in Japanese parenting philosophy, the question is never, how do we get the child to sleep alone? The question is, why would we want them to? That reframe, that single shift in the question being asked, produces an entirely different approach to sleep. And an entirely different outcome in the developing brain. Here is what the neuroscience says. And this part genuinely surprised me. A child's nervous system does not switch off during sleep. It is extraordinarily active. During the night, the brain is doing 3 things simultaneously that are critical for development. It is consolidating the emotional experiences of the day, filing them, processing them, integrating them into long-term memory. It is regulating cortisol, the stress hormone that, when chronically elevated, interferes with learning, emotional regulation, and immune function. And it is building the neural pathways that form the foundation of what psychologists call felt security, the deep, embodied sense that the world is safe and that the child is not alone in it. Now here is the critical question. What environment does the developing brain need to do all 3 of those things optimally? Researchers at the University of Notre Dame's Mother-Baby Behavioral Sleep Laboratory studied exactly this. What they found was striking. Infants and young children who sleep in close physical proximity to a caregiver show measurably lower cortisol levels through the night, more stable heart rate variability, a key marker of nervous system health, and significantly higher rates of what attachment researchers call secure base behavior during the day. They are more willing to explore, more willing to attempt difficult things, more able to return to calm after distress. In other words, the child who is held through the night is not made dependent by that closeness. They are made brave. This is where Western sleep culture has made a profound and well-intentioned mistake. The dominant Western model of infant and child sleep is built on one central assumption: independence is the goal, and the earlier a child achieves it, the better. Sleep training methods, however gentle, are designed to teach a child to self-soothe, to manage the distress of separation until they stop signaling for connection and fall asleep alone. And here is what the research actually shows about what happens neurologically when a young child cries alone without response. The stress response system activates. Cortisol rises. And if this happens repeatedly, consistently, across hundreds of nights, the nervous system doesn't learn independence. It learns something far more concerning. It learns that distress signals don't work. That need and response are not reliably connected. That the world is not consistently responsive. Psychologists call this learned helplessness. And its effects are not limited to sleep. They show up in classrooms, in relationships, in a child's willingness to attempt difficult things and ask for help when they fail. I want to be careful here. I am not saying sleep training causes lasting damage in every child. The research is genuinely mixed and context matters enormously. What I am saying is that the assumption underneath Western sleep culture, that separation is inherently good for development is not supported by the neuroscience. And Japanese parents, without ever reading a study, built a sleep philosophy that is. Now let's talk about what Japanese co-sleeping actually does to the brain over time. Because this is the part most Western conversations about this topic completely miss. Japanese children who sleep in the family bed don't co-sleep forever. The transition to independent sleep happens gradually, naturally, child-led, typically between ages 5 and 8. And here is what researchers have observed about children who make that transition on their own timeline rather than on a schedule imposed from outside. They make it more completely. The transition is smoother. The resulting independent sleep is more stable. The child's nervous system, having built a fully secure foundation during the years of proximity, is genuinely ready for independence when it comes, not performing it before the brain has the architecture to support it. Think of it this way. A building needs a foundation before it can support upper floors. Western sleep culture asks children to build upper floors first. Japanese sleep culture builds the foundation first, and then the upper floors go up faster, more solidly, and with far less structural stress. There is a second element of Japanese children's sleep that almost nobody talks about. And it may be more important than the co-sleeping itself. It is the quality of the transition into sleep. In Japan, the period of moving from wakefulness to sleep is treated with the same intentionality that Japanese culture brings to other thresholds: the entrance to a home, the beginning of a meal, the start of a school day. Transitions matter. How you cross a threshold shapes what happens on the other side. Japanese parents don't rush the sleep transition. There is no lights-out deadline. No anxious clock watching. The family moves towards sleep together, slowly, with conversation winding down, bodies settling, the emotional temperature of the day being processed naturally through proximity and quiet presence rather than being cut off abruptly by a bedroom door closing. What this does neurologically is significant. The brain's memory consolidation process, the filing of the day's emotional experiences, begins in the hypnagogic state, the threshold between waking and sleeping. A child who enters that state in a calm, connected, emotionally resolved environment consolidates positive emotional memory more effectively than a child who enters it in a state of distress or unresolved activation. In simple terms, how your child falls asleep shapes what their brain does with the day they just had. So here is what this means for you practically. Tonight, you do not need to dismantle your home or abandon your sleep setup. The principle is not the futon. The principle is the transition. Slow down the approach to sleep by 10 minutes. Sit on the floor of your child's room. Let the conversation of the day finish naturally rather than cutting it off. Put your phone in another room. Let your child feel your presence as the last conscious experience before sleep takes over. If your child wakes in the night distressed, go to them. Not because you are creating dependency, because you are sending the message that the nervous system of a developing child most needs to receive over and over across thousands of nights until it becomes the architecture of who they are. The message is this: the night is safe. You are not alone. I am here. Japanese parents have known this for 1,000 years. The neuroscience confirmed it last decade. And the children who grew up hearing that message not in words, but in warmth and proximity and unhurried presence, are the ones who wake up brave. If this video shifted something for you, share it with a parent who needs to hear it tonight. Subscribe. Every week we go deeper into the real science of how the world's best cultures raise children who are genuinely built to last. See you in the next one.